Status of sub-faction specific units and heroes like these damned paladins here is unclear for Game 3. I certainly do hope they're usable in some capacity in multiplayer, though. The damned paladins, for example, for Vampire Coast definitely add a nice element that you would otherwise lack. Being very mobile, 75 speed puts them well above crab speed with anti-large, decent stats, same as regular paladin. Much lower HP and 0 armor, though, with that sweet physical resistance and terror. Up against the Lizardmen, the Emperor, my patron, coming in with Silostra. He's got a bunch of deck hands up front, bunch of polearms as well, one depth guard with polearms even. Some handguns, looks like 3 handguns, some deck dropper pistols as well. On the opposite side of the field, Mazdamundi coming in with a couple of Cold One Riders, some Chameleon Skinks screening the air. We've got some Skink cohorts, Saurus Warriors through the center, Feral Stegodon, Salamander Hunting Pack, and an Arc of Sotek for that magic blob damage. You would expect Sirens, right, when you're fighting against Vampire Coast, so the Arc of Sotek definitely makes sense. That AoE magic damage is going to be good against the multi-model ethereal units, but those single entities ethereals are less expected against when you're fighting against Vampire Coast, right? And Lizardmen is one of those factions that does lack magic tools to a degree. Obviously, Mazdamundi and other Slans deal magic damage in melee, calling down a shield to the old ones there. We're also going to see the damned Paladin summons, some more ethereal cavalry there. Again, you have to be careful of that Cord of Sotek there, or the Arc of Sotek rather. The Cord of Sotek also dangerous against zombies, although they may have just eaten some AoE damage there from Mazdamundi. Summon crabs from Silostra as well, so just going all in on the summons, trying to use the mass to bog down these monsters, let the Paladins and Silostra work them down in single entity combat. Yeah, the cavalry overrunning in the backline does get into the handgunners. Zombie positioning is fairly unforgiving. You've got to be on point with your halberds because they're so slow to respond. Pretty easy to outmaneuver them for enemy cavalry units, so the Lizard Cav, Cold One's able to get in here and just munch. They are going to take some damage in the process, though. Might not have been the most cost-effective trade. Meanwhile, on the backline, these Knights Errant getting some nice rear charges, just kind of disrupting these Saurus. They are grinding through zombies, as to be expected, but the monster fight definitely going significantly in favor, and even on this map, which has somewhat interrupted line of sight, right, can be tricky to use a lot of direct fire units, which is why I would imagine why the Emperor didn't bring like a lot of cannons here, for example, right? In this matchup, you would think, oh, just spam a lot of ranged units, but I mean, these handgunners, even still, the zombie handguns are having a little bit of a tough time firing. It's not completely useless, but a lot of hills and dales and kind of interrupted lines of sight here means that they're really not drawing a clear bead on anything at any one time. Nice banishment going down here, just wrecking a whole bunch of numbers. Mazdamundi's kill count rapidly rising, yeah, well over 120, and climbing even further, but the damn Paladin manages to rout off that barrel. Stegodon even shatters it. Where's the other damn Paladin? Here it is, fighting the Arc of Sotek, probably taking a little bit of damage from the Sneck drop AoE ticks, but so far so good. The zombies, as they're crumbling, of course, will continue to fight more or less full strength. Deck droppers getting in there, a little bit of a rear charge to maybe try to apply some leadership penalties. Maybe it's a mistake, not really sure. Anyway, in the center, Silostra doesn't get physical resistance from Guardian, as she doesn't, I mean, she has physical resistance anyway, I guess, on the crab. But some nice magical effects being used there, some nice Tide Call, what is that? I forget. Yeah, Tide Call, that little breath attack spell also. You know, Kiss the Deep, the more that you spam those spells, you'll be getting some map-wide damage, which is pretty nice. Lore of Deeps, you don't see a ton, because Lore of Vampires is just the best lore magic in the game. Lore of Deep's a little bit underutilized, but here, with the 2 heroes being the damn Paladins, you have no choice but to go with Lore of Deeps, and unless you wanted to take, I guess, generic lore, but definitely got to go with the Silostra theme here. More Tide Call being used. Again, doesn't do all that much damage, but at the very least disrupt, steals a little bit of DPS, keeps that Tide Call going. The damn Paladin getting in here. Apotheosis on Mazdamundi, Shield of the Old Ones also being popped. I'm not going to get close, because last time I tried, Shield of the Old Ones completely murdered my frame rate, and my encoder decided to jump out the window. So, anyway, Skinks get in the back line. This is a great use for them. Just tying down these handguns. They're able to deal some damage to them as well. The deckhand polearms, again, just kind of screening. The Salamanders haven't really been too much of a factor. I haven't been keeping much track of them, but evidently they must have got caught up in a melee engagement somewhere. But yeah, things not looking great for the Lizardmen at this point. even in melee, you know, without any of the ranged units, I would think the damn Paladins, should be able to finish this off with Silostra. Mazdamundi's going to continue to sustain himself with that Apotheosis. It can be very hard to kill, but the Depth Guard Polearm is certainly up to the task as well. So got 36 models online and are regenerating with that Hunger trait as they grind down Mazdamundi and the Saurus. So going to be a fairly swift victory for the Emperor. Fun one, definitely. Thanks for sending that one in. It's an unusual hero choice, certainly, and a very strong one. You don't see Vampire Coast a ton these days, just because they're in the faction matchups. People tend to view them as fairly unfavorable, but you know, the damn Paladins are one way to potentially try and equalize some of those matchups that might not seem great on paper. I will admit this Lizardmen build probably isn't ideal anyway against Vampire Coast. You know, the monsters are tricky to make work against a missile faction like that, although Mazdamundi had other ideas. 232 kills, even still didn't pay for himself, but someone's got to clear out those zombies, and Mazdamundi definitely tried his hardest. The rest of the build, though, I think around him was just a little thin. I don't know. I mean, the Arc of Sotek I definitely agree with here to a degree to deal with Sirens and just kind of AoE blob damage in general. I think maybe you cut the Feral Stegodon, though, and just go a little bit wider with some more missile units. Try and counter-skirmish the foul zombie pirates. But anyway, on the Emperor's side here, both the damn Paladins getting some pretty good value. We'll check their cost here in just a second. But the deckhands, I mean, they're here to get mostly run over, right? Same thing with the polearms, that's fine. Depth Guard polearms, though, man, 10,000 damage dealt, 2,464 damage value. They were definitely grinding down Mazdamundi. Those other monsters in that melee fight, more so than the Paladins even. And then the handguns also returned some pretty good value as well. But the Paladins, I mean, the Terror is also nice. You know, not that Terror is necessarily as hard to come by for an undead faction like Vampire Coast, but the main thing, of course, is the mobility. They do have abilities as well. Generally, I would cut those. We also saw the Glittering Scales. I didn't highlight it, but both of them had this, which is a nice additional -5 melee attack. If you actually combine them with Sirens, this -10 melee attack with Charmed, you can get, what, -15 constant, more or less, on contact, or at least in a localized vicinity of melee attack debuff. And that will significantly help your units, you know, being that you don't have the same kind of passive healing effects that your Landlubber Count's brethren have. You definitely want to potentially try and stack those to help your units last a little bit longer in combat. Granted, it does require you to take the Drowned. Means you can't take Noctilus, but even outside, Silostra's a pretty strong lord. She's got some good things going for her as well. You know, the Knight's summon. She's got an additional melee attack debuff as well, of course, with that Song of Enthrallment, which is a speed debuff as well. But, of course, you can also take the Admirals. The Admirals are all pretty decent. Either the pistol or polearm can be situationally quite useful. A lot of people forget, but the polearm actually has access to this Van Horseman's Speculum, which is... yeah, it's essentially like a Helm of Discord, but actually slightly better in terms of effect. It doesn't last as long, only 16 seconds. Really isn't that long of an uptime, especially for a 90-second cooldown, but it is a pretty significant debuff, all said and done. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Damned Paladins, useful meme? I definitely think there's something to be had here. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.